to know more about the speaker, I'll just give out a few salient points. Shri Nilotpal Basu was appointed the Secretary General of the Students' Federation of India in 1986, a post that he held till for 7 years. In 1994, he was elected a member of parliament from the Rajya Sabha, a post which he held till 2006. The last 4 years, 2002 to 2006, 2006 to 2010, sir, right?
2006.
2006. He was the leader of the CPM in the Rajya Sabha, and now he is a member of the Central Committee. And for all of us who are interested, the CPM is the only party in India who has taken an official stance against the death penalty, and they have also taken an official stance, condemning the Supreme Court judgment. And you know which judgment I'm talking about. Thank you. So, and the session will comprise of 45 minutes. Lecture 45 minutes by Shri Basu, and we'll follow it up by a 30-minute question-answer session. I'll be your moderator for today. Thank you.
Good evening, and I think it's a very interesting experience for me that students of a law school, they are interested to know what kind of public discourse is developing in the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections. Now, unfortunately, what has happened in a country like India, that the plural and composite nature of India, which essentially makes India itself a coalition. But because of the historical circumstances, in the sphere of politics, coalition came much later. And we can see the process of coalition developing from late 60s. In fact, it was the 1967 election where, for the first time, Congress lost elections in 7 states. And since then, the coalition process has been developing. And what one of our very eminent leaders, M.S. Namboodiripad, pointed out, that at the national level, for the coalition arrangement to arrive, was delayed by about a decade due to 2 assassinations, that of Mrs. Gandhi and her son. But from 1996, we are having constantly coalition arrangements. But unlike many other countries of the world, especially Europe, coalition processes are not yet that matured. If you look at experiences, that even after the elections, they take almost a year or so to finalize coalition arrangements in many of these European countries. But in India, it is still in a process of transition, and it has not matured that much. Despite the fact that in the last few elections, if we see the data, that 2 major parties who have come to spearhead the ruling coalition, their combined vote share is coming down. And in 2009, Congress and BJP together got less than 50% of the votes. Still, if one reads the newspapers every day, and if one watches a television program, one is left with the impression that it is these 2 parties that will decide whatever is going to happen in this country. And in fact, from the last couple of elections, a new feature has also come into play, whereby as students of law, you are very, very much aware that ours is a cabinet system of government, ours is a parliamentary democracy. And therefore, in the protracted process in which our constitution was drawn up, there was a very lively debate that why in a country like India you cannot have a presidential system of government. The two challenges that our constitution makers were faced with, the humongous size of the Indian population and the very rich diversity that we had as a society. So in that context, you could not possibly have a presidential system of government. It had to be a parliamentary system with the cabinet being accountable to the government. But this willy-nilly, this whole notion of a presidential, prime ministerial aspirant has come to dominate the political process. So this is in a way grave injustice to the constitution makers. And that is also because of the vacuousness of the policy alternative that these parties are faced with. If really there was a policy which could attract votes, popular support, and if there was really a program on the basis of which it could build popular opinion, then the requirement of projection of such personalities would not be required. So the fact that it is a, what they say, Namo Raga contest, as they are projecting, is essentially also a testimony that there is very short, they are short on really posing policy alternatives. Now, what we are faced with, what is the problem that we are having in India? That, see, day in and day out, we are told that India is an emerging economic power. And India has done rather well. But when we try to go into the data about India, we find that it's really a very self-contradictory situation. India has now one of the biggest number of billionaires. But at the same time, India is perhaps home to the largest number of hungry people. And some of the latest reports of FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, they say in this decade, when India is supposed to have emerged, it is also that period where millions of people have additionally gone hungry. So this is one period which is marked by a very sharp acceleration in inequalities. Not that it was not there earlier, but it has got accentuated. And inequality in India has not only an economic dimension, because of the diversity that I was talking about. There are social strata which have been traditionally suffered social discrimination, and those social inequalities have also got further reinforced. So there is this integration of economic and social inequalities which make the situation pretty tough for a very large number of people. Now, the policies that have emerged in the last almost now 2.5 decades have created an increasing chasm between interests of these very large sections of the people and the policy of governance. Now, I don't intend to go into too much of statistics, but the tax policy, for example, now it is trying to classically imitate the policies in the West, and we are saying that basically a low tax regime, especially for those who are very wealthy, that is a good impetus for economic development of the country. That essentially that will act as a incentive for investment and so on and so forth. Last year we had about 5,73,000 crores of foregone taxes. Taxes which were supposed to be collected, but government decided that we should forego that for the sake of growth. And this year, though they could not present a full-fledged budget, but essentially they said that we are not going to give that figure in the vote on accounts, but what could be found out from answers to Parliament that about 5 lakh crores this year they have given. So just last 5 years, it is around 30 lakh crores which has been listed under the taxes foregone. Now this is a real huge amount. And as a result of this taxes foregone, what is happening? Now since you are students, the social sector has suffered. Education, health. In 2004, when the first UPA government came and when the left was supporting, we had extracted this concession from the Congress and the UPA that there will be 6% investment in education and 3% in health. Now, actual figures have remained elusive. Now, education is little less than 3%, and health is hovering around 1%. Now, therefore, the policy itself is geared towards a reverse transfer of resources. Now, basically, if we disaggregate GDP figures, for example. Now, at the beginning of this process in the early 90s, out of GDP, 30% accounted for labor and 20% for profits. Right now, the figure has completely got reversed, and the profits have gone up to 60% and labor has come down to 9%. Now, if you look at the structure of employment, now 94% of the employment in this country is in the unorganized sector, and even 40% of employment in the organized sector is contractual. Now, implications are that you do not have any social security. Therefore, this growing chasm between the interest of these overwhelmingly large sections of the people and the policies, and you can link this to the growth of billionaires. And the government figures itself, that is also dated 5 years back. Arjun Sengupta commission that was formed, they came out with a figure that 78% of the Indians, they are spending just 20 rupees to live a day. So 83 crores of people, they are having to live on a daily expenditure of 20 rupees. On the other hand, the total billionaires, they own about 35% of the total GDP. And I think you must have seen that one gentleman, his name is Mr. Mukesh Ambani, he is having a bungalow in Bombay which costs 66,000 crores. It has got 600 rooms. There are about 600 servants working in that for a family of 6. Now, this is actually becoming ridiculous. And therefore, the uncertainty that has come to be seen in the political process and more so in the electoral process. Last 6 months, every day you start with your morning newspaper, some individual has left Congress, joined BJP. Somebody has left BJP, joined Congress. This party joining from this, switching over from this combination to that combination. Reasons are many, but essentially this movement is taking place. And if you try to find out, there is no iota of policy reason given. And I am leaving this party for this policy or that party. No, I have not got the ticket. Or he is just not good enough. Therefore, this uncertainty also is a product of this increasing tension between large sections of the people and the principles on which the government has been running. Therefore, our attempt as the left is to try and see that if we can bring back policy on the agenda of people for the elections, if we can bring back the question of policy on the agenda of politics in this country, because in a country as huge and as diverse as India, nothing else but a proper people-centric policy can really unite the country. And our attempt in the last 5 years have suffered because of the electoral setback that we suffered 5 years back. But at the same time, we decided that we have to flag those issues. And unless we flag these issues on the question of how do we develop the economy in a manner in which the majority of the people benefited. Now 5 years back, or even say up to 2008, we were given this standard answer that you are making all this critique, but after all the country is growing, economy is growing, GDP growth is so much. The single point obsession with GDP growth was really foreshadowing all other questions. But it so happened that as and how left withdrew their support from the government and from the UPA, the famous observation by the Prime Minister that now I feel free. All these years I was a bonded labor. But you see, it was catastrophe which struck the Prime Minister in the form of the global financial meltdown, which actually developed into a full-fledged recession globally. And therefore, the whole stratagem that we can develop the economy based on investments coming from outside and from domestic corporates from inside, and remain completely oblivious of whether there will be a purchasing power of the people to sustain that kind of expanded economic activities and particularly production. Now, after 2008, that is precisely what has happened. In any case, the strength of a country, the strength of its national economy depends on the strength of the people. Now, we are 1 billion plus people. Now, if we had, for example, enough empowerment, we could have actually insulated ourselves from some of these fluctuations of the global economy. Now, I don't know whether you are aware of a report after 2008 struck and recession came. International Monetary Fund, they came out with a report about this global crisis, and they said that it is the China and the Chinese economy which can bring the global economy out of this difficult situation, and they will be acting as a boat to draw capitalism from the capitalist crisis. Now this because, you see, the response of the economies, Americans, Europeans, they were pitching for a line that we will refinance the financial oligarchies and the companies because of whom the financial crisis took place in the first place. But on the contrary, the Chinese economy, which was also affected, they spent very heavily, $537 billion package there, to strengthen the domestic sector of their economy, in infrastructure, in social sector, and so on and so on. So within a quarter, they came out of the difficult situation, and they started restoring the rate of growth. Whereas Europe and America is still into the throes of slowdown. Now we cannot say, of course, recession, because economy is growing, but only marginally. But there is a definite slowdown that is there. So India also, see, they did not look for that kind of an option. So situation got further accentuated, and for the last 2-3 years we are seeing that taking hold over the economy, and there is a slowdown. Not that during the earlier period that corporates were not growing. Not that Indian corporates were not growing when we slowed down. Profits were going up, but they were not happy with the kind of profits that they were having. So therefore, the very same people who patted the Prime Minister on the back and said that you are really a lion for having kicked out the left. Now today you find a bizarre spectacle of all of them lining up behind Nilotpal. Why? Because of the Gujarat model. What is the Gujarat model? Whether the parameters and the indices of the development in Gujarat anyway majorly different from the national economy or most of the states. No. In fact, in the area of social sector, Gujarat's performance has been pathetic. Today, the poverty rates are the highest in Gujarat. You see, I was reading that 46% of children below the age of 6 in Gujarat are underweight. And Gujarat figures in the 18th position in terms of dropout rates from schools. So overall, social development, human resource development, Gujarat is lacking behind. In terms of economic performance also, what is Modi's catchline? That those vibrant Gujarat events every year. They were committed in 2011, I am quoting, 20 lakh crores of investment. Actual investment which fructified was something like 83,000 crores. About 8,900 MOUs were signed. Only 2015 ultimately got realized. And where actually the Gujarat model has been able to win these corporates. Modi's track record in really doling out concession to corporates have been phenomenal. Now you know of this nano project which was took place in Singur in West Bengal, and which, because of the opposition of now present Chief Minister of West Bengal, shifted out of Bengal and went to Sanand in Gujarat. In terms of land, in terms of liberal loans at zero interest, and all those facilities, Gujarat government is spending 33,000 crores for the nano project, nano plant. It works out to be 60,000 rupees per nano car. Means 1 lakh, if 1 lakh is the price of the nano car, 60,000 will be contribution of the state government to Mr. Ratan Tata. Now nobody talks about subsidies being received by Ratan Tata or Tata Motors. When it comes to food or fertilizer, I mean it's bad mouthing is the name of the game. So therefore, Tatas are there. Ambani's, same kind of concessions, L&T, SR, Adani, and all these are available in public domain. But nowhere in the media you will find any discussion about this exceptional corporate friendliness of Mr. Narendra Modi. Therefore, you are now faced with a situation where on the one hand this UPA government is there and where the people are deserting them by the droves every day, and we saw also in the assembly elections what is the Congress. And that process is continuing because that is bound to continue. Because their economist theories, they say that, well, inflation will take place. Because if growth takes place, inflation has to take place. Now, they are even completely oblivious of the fact that this 94% of the unorganized workforce that I was talking about, that for them inflation means a straight squeeze of their incomes. Because you don't have any dearness allowance for them. And as an offshoot of these policies, you have this obnoxious new feature that natural resources are being handed over to private hands. Now you know, as students of law, students of the Constitution, that natural resources in this country is considered a communal asset, as a community asset, as a social asset. Even the government of India is not owner of these natural resources. They are just trustees on behalf of the people. Therefore, what we consider that this is a historic judgment which came about on the 2G case, where for the first time natural resources were defined and therefore distribution of natural resources was linked up with the question of public interest and therefore more open and transparent methods for distribution. Now, the corruption that we are talking about now, whether they be spectrum, mineral resources, mining, iron ore in Karnataka and Goa, and so on and so forth. Your public infrastructure like airport and ports and roads and of course land. So the transfer of these resources for the purpose of commercial utilization on a song. This is the most major medium of transfer of resources from the people at large to few. And that is why you have seen during this period the most phenomenal growth rate of wealth in few hands and phenomenal rate of pauperization of a large section of the people. And there, if you see the debate, Gandhi, Narendra Modi, while he is very critical of the Congress, but you will never hear from Mr. Modi that how he can tame the price rise if he becomes the Prime Minister, or how he can create more employment, or how he can reduce the rate of anemia in pregnant mothers and so on and so forth. And this crisis is also very much on evidence in terms of the assertion of identity politics. Now, if you do not have the wherewithal to live a decent life, you tend to blame others. We and they, we and them. Now, since India is home to such a big diversity, this process also has accentuated identity politics, and therefore this whole question not just of communalism, but also of all kinds of ethnic movements, etc., that is happening. For example, Assam, an area where people have come as settlers in early 20th century. There the Muslims are, and then the Muslim peasants, they played a very big role in the development of agriculture in that region. Now, for the last 3 years, communal tension is there, and more than 50,000 people are still in relief camps. They are mainly Muslims. And clashes taking place between poor tribal people on the other hand. So, you see, it's a very difficult situation. So, at one level, unless you can address the central question of policy together with specific agenda for addressing issues of social justice, you cannot keep the country united. Now, unfortunately, neither the Congress nor the BJP talks of all this. So our attempt is to try and unite other political forces. Not that they are also very inclined, but at the same time, circumstances are such that they also do not feel comfortable with Congress or BJP. And we have also understood that you cannot build a front. We are the most misunderstood lot. So whenever we talk of these subjects, they say that, what about your third front? No, we are not building any front. We are trying to place before the people of this country the agenda where the country can be united. And that is why we have not even claimed that we will have mutual seat adjustments in all the states. But what we are saying that some 3-4 basic principles on the question of democracy, on the question of more people-centric economic policies, questions of communal harmony and federalism, we need to come together. And whichever be the government, whatever be the government, they have to work for this. That at least try to bring back. But the biggest problem again here is, you see this Namo Raga battle, or even in the discourse that is going on, this policy questions get relegated to the background because media in this country has also come under a huge corporate control. You may be knowing that recently the TV18 network, which owns CNN, IBN, IBN7 and all that, they have come to be owned by Reliance, and also the ETV network has also come to be owned by. Therefore, it's becoming well nigh impossible to have any serious discourse in the media, and that is creating impressions. Though there are also revelations that even opinion polls can be rigged, and they are rigged. So that is creating an impression. So it is a good thing to have young people like you to be interested seriously in trying to discern what is happening, and inviting somebody like me to talk before you. So I think I will not take much of your time. We can go straight to the questions, but basically this is the approach of the left to bring in policy as a centerpiece of the electoral discourse, and really come out of this personality-driven and totally vacuous political electoral discourse that the two major parties are trying to force on the people.